Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions, the mystery of the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the comet that may have destroyed a global civilization. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. Approximately 900 years ago, the Earth's climate lurched into one of the most dramatic cold reversals in geological history. Within a decade, a geological eyeblink, temperatures across the Northern Hemisphere dropped by up to 10 degrees Celsius. The cold lasted 300 years. 35 genera of large mammals went extinct across North America almost simultaneously. The Clovis people, the most sophisticated hunter-gatherers in the Americas, vanished from the archaeological record. Human populations across the Northern Hemisphere crashed. For decades, scientists argued about what had triggered the Younger Dryas. Then in 2007, a team led by physicist Richard Firestone published evidence in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. At the boundary layer marking the Younger Dryas onset, across more than 50 sites on 4 continents, they found platinum, iridium, nanodiamonds, and glass-like spherules, the fingerprints of a cosmic impact. A comet or asteroid had struck the North American ice sheet, and Graham Hancock asked the question that followed inevitably: if the impact was real, what did it destroy? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the broader phenomenon of lost civilizations, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. What separates a civilization from a collection of villages? Not technology alone, but organization. The capacity to coordinate thousands of people toward shared goals, to store and transmit knowledge across generations, to build institutions that outlast individuals. These are the hallmarks archaeologists look for when they define a civilization, and for most of the 20th century, the oldest examples they could identify dated to around 3500 BC in Mesopotamia and Egypt. But that benchmark has been steadily eroding. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, discovered in the 1990s and excavated since, consists of massive stone circles with elaborately carved pillars depicting animals, abstract symbols, and human figures. It dates to at least 10,000 BC, roughly 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and older than the invention of pottery or agriculture in the conventional sequence. Someone built it. Someone organized the quarrying, transport, and precise placement of limestone pillars weighing up to 20 tons. Someone knew what they were building and why. That level of coordinated effort implies a society more complex than any model of 10,000 BC predicted. Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Every few years, a new site expands the timeline further. Ancient stone structures in Indonesia have been dated to 25,000 years ago. Complex astronomical alignments have been found at sites in Africa predating Egypt by millennia. The human story is older, richer, and more turbulent than the standard narrative allows. When we look at lost civilizations, we are not chasing fantasy. We are attempting to recover chapters of a history far longer than any currently recognized textbook will tell. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis. The comet that may have destroyed a global civilization is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Younger Dryas was a cold period lasting from approximately 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, characterized by a temperature drop of up to 10 degrees Celsius in Northern Hemisphere regions within decades of onset. It interrupted the post-glacial warming that followed the last glacial maximum and was followed by equally rapid warming at its end, a double climate transition of unusual speed that has interested geologists since its identification in Danish peat bogs in the 19th century. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the Younger Dryas coincides with the disappearance of 35 genera of North American megafauna, including mammoths, mastodons, ground sloths, horses, camels, and short-faced bears, in what is called the Quaternary extinction event. The Clovis culture, identifiable by distinctive fluted projectile points, disappears from the North American archaeological record at approximately the same horizon, replaced by more diverse and regionally differentiated tool traditions. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Richard Firestone and 25 co-authors published the Younger Dryas Boundary Hypothesis in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2007, presenting evidence for a cosmic impact event at the Younger Dryas onset. The Younger Dryas boundary layer has been identified at over 50 sites across 4 continents and contains elevated concentrations of platinum, iridium, magnetic spherules, glass-like cosmic spherules, and nanodiamonds, materials associated with extraterrestrial impact events. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, nanodiamonds are microscopic diamonds that form only under conditions of extreme pressure and temperature, such as those generated by a large cosmic impact. Their presence in the Younger Dryas boundary layer, confirmed by multiple independent research teams, including a 2009 study by Comet et al. In science, is considered one of the strongest impact indicators because nanodiamonds are not produced by volcanic events or other terrestrial processes. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of, in 2018, a team led by Kurt Kayer published evidence in Science Advances of a previously unknown impact crater approximately 19 kilometers wide beneath the Hiawatha Glacier in northwest Greenland. The crater's formation was estimated to have occurred within the last 800,000 years and possibly within the last 12,000 years, consistent with the Younger Dryas timing. The discovery provided the first direct physical evidence of a large impact in a location relevant to the Younger Dryas boundary hypothesis. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Graham Hancock's 2015 book Magicians of the Gods extended Firestone's impact hypothesis to argue that the Younger Dryas impact destroyed an advanced global civilization. The civilization proposed to explain monuments like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which was constructed beginning approximately 500 years ago, shortly after the Younger Dryas ended. Göbekli Tepe's vulture stone pillar, analyzed by Sweatman and Sakritsis in 2017, has been proposed as a commemorative record of the impact event encoded in astronomical symbolism. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the comet that may have destroyed a global civilization. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that Firestone et al.'s published impact hypothesis that a fragmented comet or asteroid struck or airburst over the Laurentide ice sheet around 900 years ago, triggering catastrophic wildfires, a subsequent impact winter, and the disruption of ice sheet meltwater into the Atlantic Ocean that caused the Younger Dryas cold period, is a peer-reviewed scientific hypothesis published in a major journal and supported by physical evidence at multiple sites. It is a minority but growing position within quaternary science. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Graham Hancock's extension of the impact hypothesis to argue for a destroyed advanced global civilization, a pre-Younger Dryas culture of navigators and monument builders, whose survivors became the teachers and gods of later human civilizations, goes beyond Firestone's evidence into the domain of archaeological speculation. No physical evidence of this civilization has been found, and the archaeological record shows no advanced culture preceding Göbekli Tepe at the required global scale. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the mainstream alternative, that the Younger Dryas was caused by the sudden discharge of meltwater from Lake Agassiz into the North Atlantic, disrupting thermohaline circulation and triggering the cold period without any cosmic impact, remains the position of many climate scientists. This explanation requires no extraterrestrial event and is consistent with the Younger Dryas position within a broader pattern of climate variability, but it does not easily account for the Younger Dryas boundary impact markers found on 4 continents. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the comet that may have destroyed a global civilization, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the Younger Dryas boundary layer with elevated platinum, iridium, nanodiamonds, and cosmic spherules has been confirmed at over 50 independent sites across North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East by multiple research teams in peer-reviewed publications since 2007. The geographic spread and chemical consistency of this layer across 4 continents is the primary physical evidence for an extraterrestrial event at the Younger Dryas onset, and the consistency across independent laboratories has substantially strengthened the impact case over 17 years of research. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented the Hiawatha impact crater, published in Science Advances in 2018, provides direct physical evidence of a large impact on the Greenland ice sheet, exactly the location where Firestone's hypothesis predicted an ice sheet impact. While the dating of the Hiawatha crater has not been definitively confirmed as Younger Dryas age, its existence beneath the Greenland ice demonstrates that large impacts in this region occurred and are physically preserved in the geological record. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed. Sweatman and Sakritzis's 2017 analysis in Mediterranean archaeology and archaeometry proposed that the animal carvings on Göbekli Tepe's vulture stone encode the astronomical positions of star constellations at the time of the Younger Dryas impact event, approximately 950 BC, interpreted as a commemorative record by survivors. The methodology relies on constellation identification that is contested, but the paper established a framework for testing whether Göbekli Tepe's imagery contains encoded astronomical information. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the comet that may have destroyed a global civilization. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present. Lives, that would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis has moved from fringe proposition to minority scientific position, with genuine peer-reviewed support over the 17 years since Firestone's 2007 publication. The Hiawatha crater discovery in 2018 was a significant development that brought the hypothesis closer to mainstream acceptance. Ongoing dating efforts for the Hiawatha crater and continued identification of Younger Dryas boundary sites are active areas of quaternary research. Hancock's lost civilization extension of the hypothesis remains speculative, with no direct archaeological evidence of an advanced pre-Younger Dryas culture. The scientific question, was there a cosmic impact 12,900 years ago, is becoming increasingly answerable in the affirmative. The historical question, what if anything did it destroy, remains wide open. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the comet that may have destroyed a global civilization, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Younger Dryas ultimately reveals is not just a historic puzzle, it is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.